Hello. What's up, everybody? Damien here. Welcome back to a brand new series on this channel. Today we're gonna be playing 7 Days to Die. We're gonna be playing it in vanilla mode and we're gonna tweak some of the settings. Now, the series is gonna be called Insane Insanity, and the main reason why we're calling it Insane Insanity is because we're tweaking up the default settings by quite a bit. First of all, we're gonna change our difficulty to insane. This means we're gonna be dealing 50% damage to zombies and they're gonna be dealing 200% damage to us. Second of all, every zombie in this series is gonna run very fast. And last but not least, we're gonna turn down the loot to 50%. I've tried 25%, which is the lowest setting, but I think that makes the game just not fun at all, so we're gonna be sticking to 25%. The map, as you can see on the top left, is already generated. It's a completely random map. The seed for the map is Intense Insanity, and without further ado, let's jump straight into the game. Okay, so there's a POI right in front of me. I think it's called Ranger Station Delta. That's probably gonna be the very first POI that I'm gonna do in this game. It is a fairly decent POI, not that many zombies, I think just 6 or 7, and a fairly decent loot, so definitely worth doing. But first I'm gonna finish the basics of survival. After punching some grass and some air, I actually get a bit of a glimpse that the RNG gods might be with me during this series, as I get a jar of honey from the very first tree stump that I break. Just for context, the drop chance is 20% if it's in the wilderness, 40% if it's part of a POI, so in this series this was in the wilderness, so that was a 10% drop chance, quite good I would say. Probably the only thing worth pointing out during the whole tutorial missions is to always remember to do the whole primitive armor set. It gives quite a bit of armor boost, so definitely worth having, especially in a challenge like this. The main weapon of choice for this series is going to be the spear. It has quite a few advantages over the other melee weapons, but the primary one that I'm looking after is the very long range of the power attack. And you'll see why that's important in just a second. Okay, so that's it for the tutorial. And unfortunately the trader is quite far away. The 7 meters is quite a long distance, but we'll manage. Building blocks are gonna be a very big friend of ours this game, especially at the very beginning. And I can only craft 6 right now, so I need to get a bit more wood, and wouldn't you know it, I actually get a second jar of honey from that tree stump. Now I did a math, as far as I know the drop chances are not correlated, so that's an actual compound chance of 1%. Talk about lucky. Before heading into the POI, let's take a quick look at the skill tree. I will go Perception and Agility as primary trees. The very immediate goal is to get Stuntman level 2 into parkour. You'll see why in just a couple of minutes, but unfortunately that requires 5 skill points. I only have 4 available in total. So I will actually go a bit out of the way. I'll put a point into sharp sticks because the spear is gonna be the primary weapon for a very long time. With that out of the way, let's talk a bit about this POI. I know that there's about 3 or 4 zombies on the outside. There's always a crow on the roof of the shed, and there's gonna be, I believe, 4 zombies or 3 zombies in the main building. I am trying to be as sneaky as possible right now to make sure I don't accidentally aggro more than 1 zombie at a time. Hopefully that's gonna go well. Ironically, after just saying that, I almost trip up on that zombie, but somehow I was sneaky enough not to wake him up. And I'll actually leave this fight fully unedited. This is probably gonna be the only fight in this series that's gonna be unedited. for everybody to get an understanding of how much damage we need to deal to actually kill a zombie. And just to recap, that was one sneak headshot with a bow and two more power attack headshots, I believe, with the spear. And even in this scenario, which is probably the best I could have hoped for, it still took all of my stamina bar to kill that one zombie, which is why I'm using the 2 or 3 building block strategy. And here's a few important things to know about this strategy. First of all, the zombies will always attack the top building block, never the bottom one, so if any of them need to be upgraded, is the top one. And while on the topic of building blocks, there's only a few zombies that will be able to one-shot the unupgraded building block. Secondly, the reason why the level 2 in parkour is so important is that it's gonna allow you to jump 2 blocks at once, so as soon as I place that skill point, I'm gonna be able to just jump onto any 2 building blocks, and that's gonna make fights quite a bit easier. And last but not least, when there's more than 2 zombies involved, there's always the possibility of them piling up and boosting one of them up to the 2nd level. So when dealing with things like buried treasures or zombie hordes, it's always a good idea to actually make another step. There's a very low chance of them going up 2 steps, and it should always be better safe than sorry. And somehow I've missed that nurse over there. It was clearly visible for quite a few frames, but well, through the magic of editing we can still one-shot her. And here we have the perfect example of how easy it is to die with these settings, and the main reason why this is not a permadeath series. So, I know that there's a bird up here on the roof. I don't know the exact location, I don't know if it's random or I've never figured it out, but I know the bird is there. I do 2 mistakes. First one is that after I jump, I don't stay to recover my stamina. And second is the fact that I step on a pile of trash or something and I wake up both the bird and the zombie. Now fortunately I'm in a pretty good situation. I still have the starting band-aid, I have honey on me to cure the infection, I had almost full HP, there was a door to protect me from the other zombie, and I already had my mini tower set up. I think that overall I dropped down to 23 HP, which is basically 1 hit away from dying. So yeah, especially at the very beginning, until I get a bit more armor on me, I need to be very careful. But anyway, after a bit of ring around the rosy with the remaining active zombie, I can finally start looting the outside. I know that there's no more zombies that I can activate until I get up in the main building. With the 5 bones that I get from the bird, I can actually make the knife, which is gonna be my secondary melee weapon. And basically this is gonna be the main strat early game. Get up on the tower, apply bleeding on the zombies, and then use my spear to poke them down. Ideally, if I can get a sneak shot with a bow to get that 3.5 damage would be perfect, but that's not always gonna be the case. I know that the center of the room gives as soon as I step on it, so I'm gonna use my axe to chop it down. But unfortunately I cannot get sneak shots on the 2 zombies that are down there. Taking them out takes a bit of time, as fighting in tight spaces is not the most ideal thing with these settings. But eventually both of them die. I managed to get a bit of loot. Nothing too noticeable. I do get a very good medical pile to resupply my band-aid, get a few painkillers and vitamins, so I'm quite happy about that. Other than that, I get a few magazines, I get a pipe rifle and a few bullets, which hopefully in a pinch is gonna help. Overall, I'm quite happy with how this went. It was a fairly easy POI, good enough to get me warmed up with the difficulty settings. And it's finally time to make my way to the trader. Now, for some reason, when I was playing, I didn't realize that I had an encumbrance of 8. Eventually, I do stop and take care of at least part of the issue. I could have gone to 0 encumbrance if I would have realized that I have 2 unused slots in my hotbar. While I'm slowly making my way to the trader, I do want to mention a small trick that I've used to get there just a bit quicker. The way the character was implemented in the game is that it has both a lateral movement speed and a forward movement speed that is tracked independently. What that means is that if you press both the forward key and either the left or right key, the character is gonna move at a higher speed if you are going in just one of the two directions. The only problem is that when doing that, the character is not gonna move forward, so you will have to adjust your movement, which will make your camera angle quite awkward, but especially when walking, it will have quite a visible difference on how fast you can get places. After a fairly long journey and a few more zombies, one of them that actually managed to hit me, I finally make it to the trader, but I won't be heading in just yet. I generally like to make a small base right outside of the trader, get at least a storage box down to have a place to drop my inventory. And I'll also build a mini tower here. I'll upgrade the top block to wood. There's a pretty big chance I'll be generating some heat around this area, so a wandering horde is not outside the realm of possibility, so it would be really nice to have a place to fall back to, even for just a couple of seconds. And I'll spare you the pain of having to watch all of that. This was actually one of the most disappointing trader loots I've ever had, I think. There's no forge ahead magazines, I wasn't able to recover any duct tape or glue out of the whole POI. Only thing that was remotely nice was that it had a few chili dogs for sale at a fairly reasonable price, and food is generally a big scarcity in the first couple of days. Anyway, I drop off the quest, I get a lousy level 1 shovel as a reward, and I get the first quest from the trader, which is always going to be a buried supplies quest. Which is why I'm assuming we get a shovel as a reward. Okay, so let's take a quick recap of where I'm at. It's 6 o'clock, I'm at 60%, 70% through level 1. And the main goal is to get a dew collector up and running. Now for that I need 2 forge ahead magazines, I need 100 plastic and, well, 4 duct tape, 4 pipes. The last part of the tutorial, the buried supplies quest, is just 300 meters away, so I think I should have plenty of time to finish looting up this stand and then beelining it for that location. I do have to remember from time to time to pick up the XP from the challenges. It should make the early game progression just a bit easier in a place where XP is very hard to come by. I managed to avoid all but 2 zombies on the way to the buried supplies location. And 2 hours later we finally start digging. The first block of dirt I dig finally takes me over to level 2, which means just one more level until I get to level 3 and finally be able to get level 2 into parkour. This is where I think the karma from the honey drops earlier in the episode comes back, because now I start digging and digging and digging, literally until the dig circle goes down to the smallest dimension, just to realize that the buried food stash is actually outside of that circle. Anyway, let's grab the supplies, and we have to kill, I think, just one zombie. Yep, just one zombie for this quest. All the other tier 1s are, I think, 4 zombie spawns. And let's quickly head back to the trader. There's only an hour and 10 minutes left. There should be plenty of time if I hurry just a bit. I've also realized that there's one room at the trader that I forgot to loot, so I'll squeeze that one in as well, hopefully. The reward choices for these quests are always the same, and I always pick the same option. I think that grabbing the machine gun, which has a 15 bullet magazine, is a no-brainer. It's basically a get out of jail free card. I have completed 2 more challenges. Let's quickly grab the XP. It's 2.5k, which is not that easy to come by. And with that being done, we have officially went into nighttime. One mechanic that I'll have to admit I completely forgot, but as you're gonna see, I was reminded very fast of, is that nighttime is still not the same as daytime. Yes, the running speed is maxed out, so that's not gonna be any sort of difference, but what's actually gonna be different is the zombie spawn rate and tier. Basically, there's gonna be more zombies and there's gonna be higher chances of getting feral zombies, even in day 2. And yes, the first 2 zombies that I encountered during nighttime are 2 feral zombies, one of which is extremely good at demolishing building blocks. Fortunately, I still had about half of my stamina left, and I'm gonna close my eyes, run to the nearest building, and hope to be able to have enough stamina to pull myself onto the roof without the zombies destroying the blocks, which they would, I think, one-shot. After catching my breath, I did explore the POI just a little bit, but I decided against going too deep into it because I do not know the layout and things can go south very fast at night. I do end up grabbing just a few piles of wood and a bit of plastic, and then I continue moving towards the mission POI. I'm not able to make it too far past the fence. It's actually literally just 2 blocks away and I'm already greeted by another feral zombie. This time, fortunately, it's just one, and after quite a bit of poking around, I managed to actually kill my first feral this playthrough. Because it's nighttime and I'm pretty much still on the outskirts of this small town that I've spawned into, there is plenty of wildlife around. I have decided to try my luck at killing this deer. I will need either a sneak headshot or a critical hit, and somehow by pure luck I've managed to somehow hit the deer and one-shot it after scaring it away. Probably a shot I wouldn't be able to make if I tried it 100 more times. The rest of the night is pretty much uneventful. I'll mainly go and check mailboxes around the city. That is a very good source of finding magazines and recipes. Unfortunately, in this playthrough, the RNG is not with us, at least not with the mailboxes, as most of them are very useless things, at least very useless for the very early game. While looting, I'm also trying to figure out if there's any interesting POIs that I can see around here. I'm mainly looking for a place for day 7. I'm expecting the Horde Night to be quite intense. One of the settings that I didn't mention, I always play with that, is Blood Moon at maximum count. So it's gonna be quite interesting to see if I'm gonna be able to hold that POI. So far nothing stood out yet, but I'll keep an eye open on my way to the POI. Who knows, maybe we actually get lucky. In the end, I do end up getting 2 decent magazines. One is the Lucky Looter number 5 that I've just picked up, and the other one is the ability to craft 9mm ammo. So far I've kept only the parts where my bow accuracy was somewhat decent, but for the fun of it I thought I'd leave in one of the segments where I can't aim a bow even if my life depended on it. Unfortunately, there were some recording issues at the very end of the episode, which made the footage for the last hour of the day unusable, but nothing all that interesting happened. All in all, I think we're fine skipping that one. One last thing I wanted to mention is that I had a quick look at the map, and the POI diversity in this city is not all that great. I don't want to travel to another city just yet, so what I'll end up doing is I'm gonna double loot all quest POIs. I do end up killing that second deer as well. Overall that means 50 meat harvested tonight, and doing a bit of quick math, that means 10 pieces of charred meat, which should be enough to fully replenish our nutrition for a whole day. With that being said, it's getting very close to 4 in the morning, which is about the time where most of the episodes are gonna end. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please do let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this new format on the channel, and hope to see you here next time.